Yo, what's up everyone? Today we're checking out the Mega Pack from Oxygengrey's 1000 Plus Clothing Vector Mockup Bundle. I'm gonna walk you through the basics, how to use it, how to build a piece from scratch, how to set it up for a tech pack, and how to use the pre-made elements inside. You can find the link in the video description. This is the page you'll see when you visit the website. Here you can check out real customer reviews, see detailed visuals of what's inside, and scroll through everything listed out clearly. Alright, if you're ready, we can go ahead and open up the file together. We'll start by taking a closer look at everything that comes in the pack. I've already imported all of the contents into Adobe Illustrator, so we can smoothly flip through each page, one by one, and get a better idea of how everything's laid out. On just this single page alone, you'll find 40 ready-to-use hoodie and zip-up mockups. Let's take a closer look at them in detail. Each one of these can be customized however you like. You can tweak the design, swap out individual parts, or even keep them simple and use them as they are. I'm using the shortcut Ctrl plus Alt plus G to ungroup everything. Now the elements are fully separated and editable. From here, you can simply drag any part out or copy and paste it into a blank artboard to start working on your own version. This page is all about bottoms. You'll find a wide variety of pants here, including joggers, sweatpants, distressed styles with extra embroidery, and cargo designs with functional pockets. There are lots of different variations to choose from, giving you tons of options depending on the look you're going for. Even the distress details on the separated jean mock-up can be customized. By using the A key, the direct selection tool, you can click on individual vector paths, move them around freely, stretch them, or adjust their shape however you like. This gives you full control over every little element in the design. Each piece in the pack includes both front and back views, so you're fully covered when building complete designs. After the jacket templates, we'll move on to the shorts. These are also completely customizable, just like the others. On the next page, we've got tank tops in different fabric types and fits. These styles are especially popular in upcoming 2025 summer collections, so they're great to work with if you're designing for the season. The following page is packed with tons of pocket designs, every type you can think of. You can use these not just as is, but also by breaking them apart, modifying the stitches, or layering them into new custom designs. In fact, we'll be using some of these elements in the piece we'll be creating together. The pack also includes a detailed shoe mock-up. Every part of the shoe, colors, fabrics, and patterns can be customized to match your design. It's production ready and even comes with a technical drawing, making it easy to share with manufacturers. There's also a dedicated page for zipper pendants, featuring a wide variety of unique styles. I'll also show you how to mix and match these. I usually start with a base, then combine it with icons or shapes I like. That way, I can export a custom design that's ready to send directly to the manufacturer. Alright, let's build an example together. First, I'm grabbing the back piece, then adding the middle connector. I like this square shape over here, and I'm also picking this bird-like element. Looks kinda like it's flying. Now I'm rotating it while holding Shift to snap it exactly 90 degrees. Oops, wrong key. Didn't really like how that one turned out, so I'll try something else instead. Let's go with this other piece here. What you create is totally up to your imagination. I'm gonna try making a small sword-shaped pendant, just adding a few more parts from the left side. And there we go. The sword pendant is done. Sometimes when you combine two parts, a small gap might appear between them. Let me quickly show you how to fix that. By pressing the A key, the direct selection tool, I can see all the anchor points and adjust the vector path manually. That way, I can clean it up and make sure everything looks seamless. Alright, now it's looking super clean. For the backside, I'm dragging in the rear view of a zipper pendant. Here, I'm using the same technique again, combining it with a small piece from the side to complete the look. I'm using the Shift+E shortcut again to erase that part. If you try to add a new piece on top and it gets stuck underneath, you can fix it through the Layers panel. Just find the layer with that object. It'll have a small blue circle next to it. Click and drag it all the way to the top of the layer stack. Unfortunately, there's no shortcut for this, so you'll have to do it manually. Let's move on to the sweatshirt pages. These are great for working more freely and trying out different layouts. Later on, we'll also check out the hat mockups, and some of those elements can easily be combined with these sweats to create more complete looks. This page includes several different zipper styles. You can also use them as brushes, or simply copy and paste them onto other pieces you're working on. You can press Ctrl+T to activate the transform tool and adjust the size as needed. Now I'll use the A key to fine-tune the hat shape and align it with the zipper. I'm also adding the side stitching lines next to the zipper to complete the look. Now let's move on to the button page. There are 30 different button styles here. You can modify their shapes or even add text if you'd like. This section also includes everything you need to build a custom pant mockup from scratch. Different belts, buttons, buckles, pockets, drawstrings, sweatpant options, and even distressed details. You can use these elements as is, or swap them into any of the ready-made mockups. For example, let's grab this drawstring and add it to a pair of shorts. I'll first remove the original drawstrings from the shorts, then copy this new one with Ctrl+C and paste it using Ctrl+V. Once it's in place, you'll notice it looks thicker than the others. To fix that, Go to the stroke panel in the top left and set the weight somewhere between 0.25 and 0.50 to match the rest of the mockups. You can easily change the colors of these mockups to match your designs. So far, we've gone through the button options, explored the pants section, and looked at different pocket styles. For sweatpants, I recommend using these two designs here. And for baggy jeans, this one works really well. If you want to remove any embroidery, just press Ctrl plus Shift plus G to ungroup it. Then use the A key to select the details and hit delete. Now we're on the hoodie mockup page, where you can start building one from scratch. It may look like there are only basic sweatshirt shapes, but if you check the bottom left corner, you'll find hoodie templates that fit perfectly with the rest. We also have front pockets and zipper-friendly options. I'm going to drag a few elements to the right side and do a quick test layout in the empty space. I like this piece. But the hood ended up underneath. So I'm bringing it to the top using the Layers panel. Now I'm adding the front pockets. This is just a quick test layout. When we start the actual design from scratch, we'll switch to a blank page. This is normally a double zip pocket group, so I'm ungrouping it and creating new groups for each part individually. That way, I can place them exactly where I want and have more control over the layout. Alright, let's jump back into the file. Now I'll walk you through each of the premium mockups one by one so you can see exactly what's included. Let's start with number 1. This is actually one of my favorite mockups in the pack. It comes with the fully detailed version, a clean base version without any colors, and also a PNG file. Every element on this mockup can be easily customized, so you can adjust it however you like to match your concept. These designs are copyright free, so you're allowed to make changes and move straight into production if needed. For example, I'm grabbing a pocket from the hoodie page, copying it with Ctrl plus C, and pasting it onto another page using Ctrl plus V. You can place it wherever you like. I'm ungrouping it and changing all the colors to match the design. I didn't really like the distress detail, so I'm deleting that. Also, By holding down the Alt key, I can click and drag these holes to create quick copies automatically. You can also create a double zip effect and customize the zippers as you like. You can also create a double zip effect and customize the zippers as you like. I'm placing the distressed elements I removed earlier onto the bottom of the hoodie. Transform reflect option to mirror them and create a symmetrical look. To clean up any extra parts, I'm just using Shift+E to erase them quickly. Our second mock-up is a baggy opium-style hoodie. It features belt details, zippers, and an oversized cut. Try adding patterns or even use gradients to create a washed effect. I'll experiment a bit with it now. Let's move on to another one. This next mock-up is also one of my favorites. It's similar to the others in terms of structure, and every part of it is editable. This pant mock-up is extremely detailed. Your manufacturer might lose their mind seeing this one. The buttons can be swapped out, and you can take any elements you like and apply them to your final design. Alright, instead of diving deep into each one, let's quickly scroll through the rest of the premium mockups. Here's one that has a Dulce 1000 style hoodie. Definitely worth exploring. And there's also a tracksuit mockup right here. It includes both the top and bottom, so let's take a closer look. This isn't actually a font, but you can still add your own text or drop in your brand logo to customize the tracksuit however you like. The brand name here is just a placeholder. Feel free to delete it. If you find the extra yellow detail a bit too much, you can simply remove that as well. There's plenty of room to experiment with different color combinations to match your brand's vibe. Next up is an NFL jersey-style mockup. Some of the fonts used here may not be available on your computer, but don't worry, you can swap them from the pop-up window or just leave the default fonts and change them later. Personally, I recommend deleting all the existing logos and elements and starting fresh from scratch. Everything you see here is just an example layout. Feel free to build your own version from the ground up. Let's quickly take a look at another pant mockup from the premium section. I'm going to remove the distressed details and adjust the color a bit. If you're using the latest version of Adobe Illustrator, here's a quick tip. Select the background color layer, then use AI's built-in prompt feature to type something like jean texture. You'll get realistic, vector-based patterns you can use instantly. Let's try it out. It usually takes around 10 to 20 seconds to generate. Yep, here we go. A bunch of different textures just came in. Lowering the opacity slightly to blend it better, and it's looking great. You can also copy the texture to the back side of the pant if needed, but I'm going to regenerate one Definitely keep this in mind. It can save you a lot of time in your workflow. Bingo! You can try this method with any fabric and for any type of design. It works great for both flat colors and more complex patterns or textures. Now we're going to start a brand new design from scratch using the vector pack. Begin by opening up the files I think will be most useful for this project, one by one. Right now, I'm opening up a few different mockups, including basic hoodie templates, individual hoodie parts, pants, and a variety of pocket designs. By having all of these elements open at once, I can freely mix and match between them. This approach gives me more flexibility and helps build a design that's more layered, more detailed, and definitely more unique than using just a single template. We're aiming for something that feels fully custom, not just a quick edit. I'm starting by opening a new artboard size 4000 by 4000 pixels. The exact size isn't a huge deal, since we're working with vector files, which means the resolution is basically unlimited. Just make sure you're setting the dimensions in pixels, not centimeters. Once the new page is ready, I'll take a few moments to look through the mockups and parts I want to use. I'm copying the base layer I selected and dropping it onto the new blank artboard so we can start building from there. Dragging the design over to the left side of the artboard, just because I find it easier to see and work on things more clearly in that space. I actually tried placing it on a completely new blank page earlier. Here's something useful to know. Even if you're working outside the canvas area, Illustrator still lets you export everything without a problem. So don't worry too much about the placement. As long as your layout is clean, it'll work just fine. Let's take a moment to choose a hoodie base. I don't want one that's fully open. I'm looking for something that opens slightly toward the back. I'm thinking of going for more of a techwear inspired look this time. Let's see. This one's not quite it. Not that one either. Okay, this one looks good. I think I'll go with it. When I pasted the hoodie onto the artboard, it looked a bit narrow, so I'm going to scale it up and try to fit it properly. If you want to resize it without distorting the proportions, just hold down Shift while dragging. Shift plus Alt lets you scale it from the center, and using only Alt will allow free scaling, which can stretch it. Alright, I think this looks just right now. Now I'm connecting the inner stitching lines using the A key, just adjusting them slightly to line up on both sides. Once that's done, I can go ahead and add a pocket. I'll pick one from the hoodie page that fits the overall look. After ungrouping the pocket options, I've decided to go with the one that includes a zipper. ungrouping it, and then regrouping just one of the zippers so I can drag and position it exactly where I want. Next, I'm choosing a larger pocket base, but I'll adjust the size a bit to get the proportions right. Distress details to give it more character. There are a lot of options here, so this part of the process is a bit more experimental. Feel free to watch this section at 2x speed if you want. It's mostly trial and error as I test out different combinations. Here, I took a belt element and stretched it from the pocket up to the shoulder, almost like a seam line. Then I used the stroke panel to make it thinner and cleaner. I removed one of the buttons and extended the piece. It fits perfectly along the sleeve. Using the A key, I cleaned up the edges that were sticking out. transform greater than reflect to flip it, and fine-tune the position with the A key. You can also use the brush tools in the pack to draw zippers however you like. I gave it a try, but for this design, I wasn't really feeling it. So I decided to skip that part. I'm trying to pick the color that fits best with the overall design. Once everything is grouped together, it makes more sense to apply the color. That way you can adjust all the elements at once. remember, you don't always need to rely on pre-made parts. Just like I did here, you can draw your own small or large details to customize things and make the design feel more personal. I'm saving the final version of this design now. Next up, we're moving on to the tech pack, and we'll go over it in detail step by step. The tech pack comes in both PDF and Illustrator formats. When you open it, you might notice that some of the fonts are missing, but that's not a problem. This whole file is just a sample layout, meant to give your manufacturer a visual reference. In fact, a lot of the content here is optional or not really necessary. In the next section, I'll walk you through which parts actually matter and what details you should focus on when preparing your own tech pack. I went ahead and approved the fonts one by one and selected only the ones I wanted to keep. But like I mentioned earlier, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. Alright, let's get started. The first page you'll see is more of a cover. It usually includes a visual or design mock-up. To be honest, manufacturers don't really pay attention to this page, so it's not essential. You can still use it if you want. Just swap out the logo and drop in your design, or use it for organizing and categorizing different styles. Personally, I never found it necessary. The second page is usually reserved for technical drawings, but again, if you're working with a basic piece, a tech drawing isn't always required. Think of these pages as extras. My goal here is to help you move into production as quickly and efficiently as possible. Page 3 is one of the most important parts of the tech pack. This is where you'll need to provide some technical information. The goal is to show your design clearly, ideally with examples. But don't worry, if you're missing some details, you can use reference pieces you find online, or even ask ChatGPT for help. If your manufacturer is experienced, they might also guide you through what's needed. For something simple like a basic tee, you don't need to go overboard with details, just cover the essentials. And if you're aiming for a more innovative label or tag design, think of this page as a guide. Your job is just to explain what you want in a simple and understandable way. No offense, but some manufacturers can be a bit hard to work with, especially if you're sourcing from lower tier regions or platforms like Alibaba. But in more developed production hubs, these kinds of issues are much less common. When it comes to inside and side labels, feel free to have a little fun with them. You can hide small Easter eggs, like a line that says, "Tell your mom to read the care instructions." These little details can add personality and connect with your audience. But aside from that, I wouldn't recommend straying too far from industry standards when it comes to label content, especially for sizing, care instructions, and fiber composition. It's better to keep those consistent and professional. The fabric section is extremely important. You can always look up standard fabric types online, but the real thing to pay attention to here is the color. Let me explain in more detail. Even though Pantone color codes are recognized globally, the general Pantone palette isn't always valid for textiles. What you actually need are Pantone codes that are specifically created for fabric and textile use. These usually include extra labels at the end, like TSX, TCX, or TPX. So if you're trying to find the right one, just search something like Pantone Textile Color Code for your color. This way, your manufacturer will know the exact shade you're going for and can match it accurately. Keep that in mind. It's a small detail that makes a big difference. Arguably, the most important part of the entire tech pack is the measurement section. What you're seeing here is just a sample, but I'll walk you through how I use it with a real design. I take the garment illustration and mark out all key measurements, starting from the bottom to the top, like from the hem to the shoulder. Each line gets labeled with a letter, A, B, C, and so on, especially if there are extra details that need measuring. Then, using red arrows, I show the measurement points visually. On the left side, there's a table where I list out each of those lettered measurements in actual numbers. Even for a basic tee, there can be 10 to 12 different measurements. And the more complex your design, the more attention you'll need to give this section. If you're unsure, one great method is to take your favorite piece of clothing at home and measure it. Then plug in those numbers. Or you can even reference sizing charts from big brands like Inditex or other major retailers. Personally, I like adjusting things slightly, maybe adding or subtracting 1 to 5 centimeters depending on the fit I want. And if you don't have a measuring tape at home, try using the iPhone measurement app. Just make sure you're in good lighting. The accuracy is pretty solid. You might be off by just a centimeter at most. I placed the design here as an example, but feel free to create this page from scratch in a simpler way. You can also copy the arrows and measurement table directly if that helps. Just keep in mind, this layout is for a complex piece, and it's really just a sample. Now let's talk about label tags. To be honest, I don't really recommend using them, especially if you're just getting started. Let's be real. Most customers, maybe even you, are going to rip them off and throw them away. They're usually just wasted material and add extra cost during production. If your goal is to give your customer a more premium experience, focus on things that align with your brand culture, like small gifts or thoughtful packaging touches. But if your product isn't going to be sold in a physical retail space, extra labels often don't add real value. They're just more money spent for something that ends up in the trash. Now let's take a look at the print section. This part is pretty straightforward. You can provide your design either as a PNG or a vector file. Usually, 2 simple measurements, labeled A and B, are more than enough for most print placements. But you can always go beyond that if needed. One method I recommend is measuring real garments and using those numbers as a reference for your print sizing. Include those measurements on the left side of the page. As for print techniques, there are plenty of options out there. My advice, if your design uses just 1 to 3 colors, go with screen printing. For more complex, detailed prints, DTG or DTF might be better depending on the situation. And if you have very specific design expectations, it's always a good idea to send visual examples to your manufacturer. This helps ensure they understand exactly what you're going for, and it can also save you from unexpected costs. Now, as a bonus, I'll show you how to turn your design into a realistic visual. All you need to do is use the right prompt, and I'll break it down for you. In the colors section of the prompt, make sure to enter the exact Pantone textile color code, just like we talked about earlier. And for the fabric type, simply type in the kind of fabric you want the mock-up to be made of. That's it. With the right input, you'll get a clean, high-quality render of your piece that you can use for presentations or even to send to your manufacturer. Once you've finished your design, take a clean screenshot or export the final layout from Illustrator or whichever program you're using. Then, paste that image into the prompt you created for ChatGPT or the visual generation tool you're working with. Make sure the prompt includes the correct Pantone textile color code and fabric type, like we discussed earlier. Once everything's in place, go ahead and submit it, and give it about a minute or so to process. What you'll get is a high-quality, realistic render of your custom design, something that looks almost like a real product photo. This is incredibly useful because you can now share that image with your followers on social media, your design community, or potential customers to gather feedback before moving forward with production. That way, you're not just designing in isolation, you're testing ideas, validating your vision, and getting real-world reactions without spending a single dollar on samples yet. It also helps eliminate confusion when working with manufacturers. Visual references like this make it easier for them to understand your design intent clearly, which means fewer mistakes, less back and forth, and a smoother production process overall. Exactly one-to-one with my original design. It's honestly kind of amazing how accurate these tools have become. Now here's the best part. You can take that realistic image you just got and upload it back into ChatGPT or your visual AI tool. From there you can start editing. For example, try adding a washed fabric effect, tweaking the lighting, or enhancing certain materials like stitching or ribbing. You can also push your creativity even further by giving more detailed prompts. Maybe change the setting, add a background, show how it looks worn on a model, or simulate motion. The best thing is, you can do all of this even with the free version of most tools. That means unlimited experimentation without spending anything. No samples, no photo shoots, no waiting. Just pure design freedom at your fingertips. You can find more designer assets like this on Oxygengrey's website. Thanks for watching.